Okay, this is a really special review. Not only am I reviewing the NTG 3 shotgun microphone on a onstage boom stand, microphone stand, and the Rhodes foam windscreen, which won't do much for wind, but let's just see how it is. And also, I'm testing out this phantom power. It's the Zoom H4n. And instead of just talking about it, let's just do a history lesson, okay? Instead of just talking about it, let's just do like a little history lesson. Panama's president and hero. I landed at Panama's Tacman Airport late one April night in 1972 during a tropical deluge. As common in those days, I shared a taxi with several other executives, and because I spoke Spanish, I ended up in the front seat beside the driver. I stared blankly out the taxi's windshield. Through the rain, the headlights illuminated a billboard portrait of a handsome man with a prominent brow and flashing eyes. One side of his wide-brimmed hat was hooked rakishly up. I recognized him as the hero of modern Panama, Omar Torrijos. I had prepared for this trip in my customary fashion by visiting the reference section of the Boston Public Library. I knew that one of those reasons for Torrijos' popularity among his people was that he was a firm defender of both Panama's right to self-rule and of its claims to sovereignty over the Panama Canal. He was determined that the country under his leadership would avoid the pitfalls of its ignominious history. Panama was part of Colombia when the French engineer Ferdinand de Lesseps, who directed construction of the Suez Canal, decided to build a canal through the Central American Isthmus to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Beginning in 1881, the French undertook a mammoth effort that met with one catastrophe after another. Finally, in 1889, the project ended in financial disaster, but it had inspired a dream in Theodore Roosevelt. During the years of the 20th century, the United States demanded that Colombia sign a treaty turning the isthmus over to a North American consortium. Colombia, of course, refused. In 1903, President Roosevelt sent the U.S. warship Nashville. U.S. soldiers landed, seized and killed a popular local militia commander, and declared Panama an independent nation. A puppet government was then installed, and the first canal treaty was signed. It established American zone, both sides of the future waterways, legalized U.S. military intervention, and it gave Washington virtual control over its newly formed independent nation. Interestingly, the treaty was signed by U.S. Secretary of State Hay and French engineer Philip Bonaventure, who had been part of the original team, but it was not signed by a single Panamanian. In essence, Panama was forced to leave Colombia in order to serve the United States in a deal struck by an American and a Frenchman. In retrospect, a prophetic beginning. For more than half a century, Panama was ruled by an oligarchy of wealthy families with strong connections to Washington. They were right-wing dictators who took whatever measures they deemed necessary to ensure that their country promoted U.S. interests. In the matter of most of the Latin American dictators who allied themselves with Washington, Panama's rulers interpreted U.S. interests to mean putting down any populist movement that smacked of socialism. They also supported the CIA, the NSA, and anti-communist activities throughout the hemisphere. And they oil served as virtual slaves. Families were well rewarded with their support. U.S. military forces intervened on their behalf a dozen times between the declaration of Panamanian independence in 1968. However, that year, while I was still a Peace Corps volunteer in Ecuador, the course of Panamanian history suddenly changed. A coup overthrew Arnulfo Andreas. During the parade of dictators, Omar Torrijos emerged as a head of state, although he had not actively participated in the coup. Now, that was just a excerpt of a really good book that I recommend anyone reading. It's called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That was my review of the Rode NTG3, and I'm in the basement. I didn't have much time to set up anything. I didn't even get ready for this. And also, the heating kicked on about 45 seconds ago. So, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I like this mic a lot. So far, I haven't even heard it on the computer editing it. So, that's it. That's my review.